The year was 2147, and humanity had finally stretched its reach beyond Earth. On a distant planet named IS-7, nestled in the outer edges of the galaxy, a small human colony thrived. The settlers called it home, though it was nothing like Earth. The air was thin but breathable, the ground rocky and barren, and the sky painted in hues of deep orange and purple. It wasn't perfect, but it was theirs. Jiho was one of those settlers, a young Korean man with an easy smile and a knack for fixing things. He had been chosen to help maintain the colony's delicate infrastructure. His days were filled with repairing solar panels, checking oxygen generators, and ensuring that everything ran smoothly. It wasn't glamorous work, but Jiho didn't mind. He liked solving problems and making things work again. One crisp morning, Jiho stepped outside the colony's protective walls to inspect a damaged solar array. The suns there were two of them were just beginning to rise, casting long shadows across the rocky terrain. The air felt cool against his skin, and the silence was almost deafening. For a moment, Jiho paused to take it all in. This place might not have been Earth, but there was a strange beauty to it. As he approached the broken panel, something caught his eye, a flicker of movement near the edge of the forest. At first, Jiho thought it was just his imagination, but then he saw it again. Something or someone was watching him from the trees. Cautiously, Jiho reached for the utility belt at his side, pulling out a small scanner. The device hummed softly as it swept the area, searching for signs of life. After a few seconds, the screen lit up with unfamiliar readings. Whatever was out there wasn't human. "Hello," Jiho called out, his voice steady despite the unease creeping into his chest. "Is anyone there?" For a moment, there was no response. Then, slowly, a figure emerged from the shadows. Jiho froze. Standing before him was a child, an alien child. She couldn't have been more than 6 years old by human standards. Her skin glowed faintly blue, and her large almond-shaped eyes sparkled with curiosity. She wore simple robes made of some kind of shimmering fabric, and her tiny hands clutched what looked like a small stone pendant. Jiho blinked, unsure if he was seeing things. Aliens weren't uncommon in this part of the galaxy, but they rarely ventured so close to human settlements. And this one, she was just a kid. "Ah, hi," Jiho said awkwardly, lowering the scanner. "You're not supposed to be here." The girl tilted her head, studying him intently. She didn't speak, but her expression suggested she understood more than she let on. Jiho fumbled with his translator device, activating it quickly. The gadget buzzed as it processed the sounds around them, eventually spitting out fragmented phrases in a language Jiho didn't recognize. "I'm sorry," Jiho said, pointing to himself. "I don't understand." After a few tense moments, the girl took a step forward. She pointed to herself and said a single word. "Lyra." "Lyra," Jiho repeated, nodding slowly. "Okay, I'm Jiho." She smiled at that, her lips curving into a shy grin. Encouraged by her reaction, Jiho tried again. "Where are you from, Lyra? Why are you here?" Lyra tapped her chest, then gestured toward the sky. Jiho frowned, trying to make sense of her movements. Was she saying she came from space? Before he could ask further, she darted forward, closing the distance between them. Startled, Jiho instinctively took a step back, but Lyra didn't seem threatening. Instead, she reached out and touched his arm lightly, her fingers cool against his skin. Her wide eyes locked onto his, and for a brief moment, Jiho felt as if she were trying to communicate without words. There was something innocent yet wise about her, like she knew things far beyond her years. Feeling a mix of amusement and bewilderment, Jiho chuckled nervously. "Well, this is unexpected. You're definitely not what I was expecting to find out here." Lyra tilted her head again, clearly puzzled by his words. Jiho sighed, realizing how ridiculous the situation was. Here he was, standing in the middle of nowhere, talking to an alien child who probably didn't understand a word he was saying. Still, he couldn't help but feel a strange fondness for her. She reminded him of his younger sister back on Earth, curious, fearless, and full of wonder, Jiho said, leaning down slightly to meet her gaze. "If you grow up and come back here someday, maybe we can get married." He laughed at his own joke, shaking his head. "Yeah, right. Like that'll ever happen." Lyra stared at him, her expression unreadable. For a moment Jiho wondered if he'd offended her, but then she smiled again, her eyes twinkling with mischief. With a final wave of her hand, she turned and disappeared back into the forest, leaving Jiho alone with his thoughts. As he watched her go, Jiho shook his head, chuckling softly. "What a weird morning," he muttered to himself. He glanced down at the scanner still clutched in his hand, noticing that the readings had vanished. Whatever Lyra was, she was unlike anything he'd ever encountered. Shrugging off the encounter, Jiho returned to the task at hand. The solar panel wouldn't fix itself, after all. But as he worked, he couldn't shake the image of the little alien girl from his mind. There was something special about her, something he couldn't quite put into words. Little did he know, their meeting would change his life forever. For now, though, Jiho pushed the memory aside and focused on the job. Life on EO7 was unpredictable enough without adding alien children to the mix, or so he thought. Months turned into years, and life on EO7 settled into a predictable rhythm. Jiho grew accustomed to the routine of maintaining the colony's infrastructure. The days were long, but they were filled with purpose. He had become one of the most trusted engineers in the settlement, earning respect from his peers for his problem-solving skills and calm demeanor under pressure. The memory of Lyra, the little alien girl he'd met outside the colony, faded into the background. At first, Jiho would occasionally think about her, especially during quiet moments when he was alone with his thoughts. But as time passed, she became nothing more than a funny story he told during late-night gatherings with friends. "Remember that time you joked about marrying an alien?" his coworker Minsu teased one evening over dinner. "What if she actually comes back someday?" Jiho laughed, waving a hand dismissively. "Yeah, right, like that'll ever happen. It was just a joke." But deep down he couldn't help but wonder sometimes, what kind of life did Lyra lead? Where had she gone, after disappearing into the forest that day? These questions lingered in the corners of his mind, though he never dwelled on them for too long. There were more pressing matters to focus on, like keeping the colony running smoothly. Over the years, Jiho's personal life also saw some changes. He grew close to another colonist, a woman named Subin who worked in the agricultural sector. She was kind-hearted and hardworking, with a quick wit that matched Jiho's own. They started spending more time together, sharing meals and conversations about their dreams for the future. For a while, it seemed like things might turn serious between them. They dated casually, enjoying each other's company without rushing into anything. But eventually, they realized their paths were heading in different directions. Subin wanted to start a family, while Jiho wasn't ready for that kind of commitment. They parted ways amicably, remaining friends despite the breakup, though he missed having someone to share his life with. Jiho threw himself into his work. The colony faced constant challenges: equipment failures, resource shortages, and even occasional storms caused by the planet's unpredictable weather patterns. Each problem required creativity and determination to solve, and Jiho found satisfaction in knowing he played a crucial role in keeping everyone safe. Meanwhile, rumors began circulating among the settlers about increased activity among the Velani, the nomadic alien species Lyra had belonged to. Their massive organic ships, which resembled living creatures more than machines, had been spotted orbiting nearby planets. Some speculated they were searching for resources, while others believed they might be planning something bigger. G-Ho paid little attention to these stories. The Velani rarely interacted with humans, preferring to keep to themselves as they traveled through the stars. From what Jiho had heard, they were peaceful beings who valued exploration and knowledge above all else. Still, their sudden appearance near EO7 made some people nervous. One evening, Jiho sat on the edge of the colony's observation deck, staring up at the twin suns setting over the horizon. The sky was painted in shades of orange and pink, casting a warm glow over the rocky landscape. It was moments like these that reminded him why he had chosen to leave Earth behind. Despite its harsh conditions, EO7 had a certain charm, a raw beauty that felt untamed and wild. As he sipped a cup of tea, Subin joined him, sitting down beside him with a soft smile. "Beautiful night, isn't it?" "It is," Jiho replied. "Nodding makes you forget how tough things can get around here." Subin chuckled. "True, but we've come a long way since we first arrived. Remember those early days? Everything breaking down left and right?" Jiho grinned. "How could I forget? I spent half my time fixing leaks in the oxygen generators." They both laughed, reminiscing about the chaos of their first year on EO7. Back then, survival had been the top priority. Now, the colony was thriving, thanks in no small part to Jiho's efforts. After a moment of silence, Subin glanced at him thoughtfully. "You know, Jiho, I've always admired how dedicated you are. You put so much of yourself into this place." He shrugged modestly. "It's not just me. Everyone here works hard. We're a team." "That's true," Subin agreed. "But still, I hope you find happiness someday. You deserve it." Her words caught him off guard, and Jiho looked away, feeling a pang of longing. "I'm happy enough," he said quietly. "This place, it's home now, and helping keep it running, that's fulfilling in its own way." Subin nodded, sensing that he didn't want to talk about it further. Instead, she changed the subject, asking about the latest project he was working on. As they chatted, Jiho felt grateful for her friendship. Even though their romantic relationship hadn't worked out, Subin understood him better than most people did. Later that night, as Jiho lay in bed, his thoughts drifted back to Lyra. He wondered what she was doing now, whether she still remembered their brief encounter. It was silly, really, to think about someone he'd only met once years ago. Yet there was something comforting about the idea of her out there somewhere, exploring the galaxy. Little did Jiho know, fate had other plans. The Velani weren't just passing through the system, they had come for a reason, and soon, the promise he'd made in jest would resurface in a way he could never have imagined. For now, though Jiho slept peacefully, unaware of the storm brewing on the horizon, life on EO7 continued as usual, with its mix of challenges and triumphs. But change was coming, and it would sweep Jiho into a new chapter of his life, one that would test everything he thought he knew about himself and the universe around him. Years had passed since Jiho's encounter with the little alien girl named Lyra, life on EO7 continued, as it always did, with its ups and downs. The colony thrived, expanding its reach and strengthening its infrastructure. Jiho remained a key figure in keeping things running smoothly, his reputation as a skilled engineer growing with each passing year. Yet despite his success, there was an emptiness inside him, a quiet longing for something he couldn't quite name. One evening, as Jiho walked home, after a long day of work, alarms blared across the colony. The sound was sharp and urgent, cutting through the calm of the twilight. Startled, Jiho stopped in his tracks, his heart pounding. He turned toward the source of the commotion and saw the crowd gathering near the edge of the settlement. Curious and slightly alarmed, he hurried to join them. As he approached, his breath caught in his throat. Hovering above the horizon was a massive ship, so large it seemed to blot out the twin suns. It wasn't like any human vessel he'd ever seen. The craft pulsed with an organic glow, its surface rippling as though alive. Tentacle-like appendages extended from its sides, giving it the appearance of some kind of cosmic sea creature. This was no ordinary spaceship, it belonged to the Veilani. The settlers murmured nervously among themselves, their voices tinged with fear and awe. Some clutched weapons while others simply stared in stunned silence. Jiho felt a chill run down his spine. He had heard stories about the Veilani, but they rarely interacted with humans. Why were they here now, and why had they chosen EO7 before? Anyone could react further. The ship descended slowly, touching down just outside the colony's perimeter. A ramp extended from its side, and figures began to emerge. Jiho squinted, trying to make out their shapes. They were tall and graceful, their glowing blue skin shimmering under the dim light. Each step they took radiated authority and purpose. Then, one figure stepped forward, separating herself from the group. Jiho's eyes widened in disbelief. Standing before him was none other than Liru, the same little alien girl he had met years ago, but she was no longer a child. She had grown into a striking adult, her features matured and regal. Her luminous blue skin seemed to glow brighter than the rest, and her piercing gaze swept over the crowd with confidence. For a moment, time stood still. Lyra's eyes locked onto Jiho's, and a soft smile spread across her face. Recognition flickered in her expression, and Jiho felt his cheeks flush with embarrassment. He remembered the joke he had made all those years ago, the careless comment about marrying her when she grew up. Surely, she hadn't taken it seriously. Had she? Lyra stepped closer, addressing the assembly in flawless English. Her voice was melodic yet firm, carrying an air of command that silenced the murmuring crowd. "I have returned," she announced, her words echoing across the open space. "To honor a promise made long ago?" Gasps rippled through the settlers. Whispers erupted as people turned to look at Jiho, who suddenly found himself at the center of attention. His face burned red as he stammered, "Wait, what are you talking about? That was just a joke." But Lyra didn't laugh or brush it off. Instead, she explained calmly, in Veilani culture, promises, even jokes, are sacred bonds. By making such a remark, you unknowingly committed yourself to a lifelong alliance with my clan. To us, this means marriage. Jiho froze, his mind racing. Marriage to an alien? He hadn't meant anything by his comment. It was just a light-hearted quip to ease the awkwardness of their first meeting. How could it possibly carry so much weight? The crowd around him buzzed with excitement and disbelief. Some laughed nervously, thinking it was all a misunderstanding. Others whispered among themselves, speculating about what this might mean for the colony. Jiho felt overwhelmed, unsure of how to respond. His thoughts were a jumble of confusion, panic, and even a hint of fascination. Su-Ben, who had been standing nearby, stepped forward and placed a reassuring hand on Jiho's shoulder. "Take a deep breath," she said softly. "This is unexpected, but maybe it's worth hearing her out." Reluctantly, Jiho nodded. He looked at Lyra, who waited patiently, her expression calm and composed. There was no malice in her gaze, only sincerity. Slowly, Jiho began to realize that this wasn't just about him, it was about the colony too. If the Veilani truly intended to form an alliance with humanity, it could bring countless benefits. Trade agreements, technological exchanges, and mutual protection were just a few possibilities. Over the next few days, Jiho spent more time with Lyra, learning about her culture and explaining human customs in return. She revealed that the Veilani viewed partnerships not merely as personal unions, but as opportunities to strengthen ties between civilizations. Marrying Jiho would symbolize peace and cooperation between their two species. At first, Jiho struggled to wrap his head around the idea. The differences between humans and Veilani were vast, from their biology to their way of life. But as he spent more time with Lyra, he began to see beyond those differences. Despite their contrasting appearances, they shared many common values: family, loyalty, and a desire to protect their respective communities. Lyra proved to be patient and understanding. Answering Jiho's questions without judgment, she showed him holographic recordings of her travels across the galaxy, sharing stories of the wonders she had witnessed. In turn, Jiho told her about Earth, describing its oceans, forests, and bustling cities. Their conversations became a bridge between two worlds, bringing them closer together. The colony, initially skeptical of Lyra's intentions, gradually warmed up to the idea. Trade negotiations began, and the settlers marveled at the advanced technology the Vaylani offered. Crops grew faster thanks to new farming techniques, and energy production increased exponentially with the help of Vaylani innovations. Jiho played a crucial role in facilitating these exchanges, earning respect from both humans and aliens alike as the days turned into weeks. Jiho's initial discomfort gave way to admiration and, perhaps even affection for Lyra. She was intelligent, compassionate, and deeply committed to her people. Though their relationship was unconventional, it carried a sense of purpose that resonated with him. Still, doubts lingered in the back of his mind. Could he really go through with this? Was he ready to take such a monumental step not just for himself, but for the entire colony? These questions weighed heavily on him as he prepared to face the future. Little did Jiho know, the decision ahead would shape not only his own destiny but also the destiny of humanity itself. The bond between him and Lyra was more than just a promise fulfilled. It was the beginning of a new era, one where two vastly different species would learn to coexist and thrive together. Jiho's days became a whirlwind of activity as he navigated the complexities of his new reality. The idea of marrying Lyra, an alien from a species he barely understood, was overwhelming. Yet it wasn't just about him anymore. The entire colony looked to him as a bridge between humans and the Vaylani. Every interaction, every decision he made, carried weight far beyond his personal life. At first, Jiho struggled to adapt. He spent hours talking with Lyra, learning about her culture and traditions. She explained that in Vaylani society, bonds, like marriage, weren't just about love, they were contracts of trust and unity, meant to strengthen ties between communities. To them, Jiho's offhand comment years ago had been taken as a sincere vow, one that required fulfillment. "It's not just about us," Lyra told him gently one evening, as they sat together in the observation deck of the colony. "This is about bringing our people closer. You'll be a symbol of hope for both humans and Vaylani." Jiho sighed, rubbing his temples. "I get that, but I'm just me. A guy who fixes broken things for a living. How am I supposed to represent all of humanity?" "You already are," Lyra replied, her glowing blue eyes soft with understanding. "You've shown kindness, curiosity, and respect. That's all anyone can ask for." Her words gave Jiho some comfort, but doubts still lingered. He worried about how the settlers would react if he went through with the marriage. Would they see him as a hero, or as someone who had abandoned human values? And what about his own feelings? Could he truly care for Lyra in the way she deserved? Subin, ever the supportive friend, noticed Jiho's inner turmoil. One afternoon, while they worked side by side repairing a damaged generator, she brought up the topic. "You've been quiet lately," she said casually. "Still thinking about Lyra?" Jiho nodded, tightening a bolt with more force than necessary. "Yeah, it's complicated. I can imagine," Subin said with a small laugh. "But think about it this way, you're doing something bigger than yourself. If marrying Lyra means peace and cooperation with the Vaylani, isn't that worth it?" Jiho paused, considering her words. "What if I mess it up? What if I say or do the wrong thing and ruin everything?" "You won't," Subin reassured him. "You've always been someone who takes responsibility seriously. Just take it one step at a time. Besides, Lyra seems patient. She'll guide you." Her encouragement helped ease some of Jiho's anxiety. Over the following weeks, he threw himself into learning as much as he could about the Vaylani. Lyra introduced him to her familia, council of elders who governed their clan, and shared stories of their history and beliefs. In return, Jiho taught them about human customs, explaining Earth's diverse cultures and traditions. Through these exchanges, Jiho began to see the beauty in their differences. The Vaylani valued harmony above all else, striving to live in balance with the universe. Their organic ships, which seemed strange at first, were extensions of their bodies, grown rather than built. They communicated not only through words but also through subtle gestures and shifts in their skin's glow. To Jiho, it felt like stepping into a dream, one where technology and nature coexisted seamlessly. As the days passed, Jiho found himself growing closer to Lyra. Her wisdom and calm demeanor drew him in, and he admired her dedication to her people. Though their relationship started under unusual circumstances, Jiho couldn't deny the connection forming between them. He realized that while their bond might have begun as a joke, it had evolved into something meaningful. The colony too began to embrace the changes brought by the Vaylani. Trade flourished, with settlers exchanging goods and knowledge freely. The Vaylani introduced advanced medical techniques that saved lives, while humans shared agricultural methods suited to EO7's harsh environment. Together, they transformed the once barren planet into a thriving hub of innovation and cooperation. Despite these successes, not everyone was happy. Some settlers viewed the alliance with suspicion, fearing the Vaylani might have ulterior motives. Rumors spread that the aliens were planning to take over the colony, using Jiho as a pawn in their scheme. These whispers reached Jiho's ears, filling him with guilt and doubt. One evening, after a particularly tense town meeting, Jiho confided in Lyra. "I don't know if I can do this," he admitted, sitting on the edge of his bed. "People are scared, they think I'm betraying them." Lyra knelt beside him, placing a gentle hand on his knee. Fear comes from misunderstanding, she said softly. We must show them that we mean no harm. You're not betraying anyone, you're building a future. Her words resonated deeply with Jiho. He knew she was right. If he backed out now, the fragile trust between humans and Vaylani would shatter. Determined to prove the skeptics wrong, Jiho redoubled his efforts to foster goodwill between the two groups. He organized cultural exchange programs, inviting settlers to visit the Vaylani ship and learn about their way of life. Slowly but surely, attitudes began to shift. By the time preparations for the wedding ceremony began, Jiho felt a sense of purpose he hadn't known before. This wasn't just about him and Lyra, it was about creating a legacy of peace and understanding. The ceremony itself would blend elements of both human and Vaylani traditions, symbolizing the union of their worlds. On the eve of the big day, Jiho stood outside the colony, gazing up at the twin suns setting over the horizon. Lyra joined him, her presence calming and reassuring. Are you ready? She asked quietly. Jiho smiled, though his heart raced with nerves. As ready as I'll ever be. Lyra took his hand, her touch cool and steady. Remember, this isn't just about us. It's about showing everyone that even the most unlikely connections can lead to something beautiful. Jiho nodded, feeling a surge of determination. Tomorrow would mark the beginning of a new chapter, not just for him and Lyra, but for humanity. In the Vaylani, despite the challenges ahead, Jiho knew they were taking the first step toward a brighter future. As the stars emerged in the night sky, Jiho felt a renewed sense of hope. The road wouldn't be easy, but he was ready to walk it together with Lyra. The day of the ceremony arrived, and the colony buzzed with excitement and anticipation. Never before had humans and Vaylani come together in such a profound way. For Jiho, it was a moment filled with equal parts nerves and hope. He stood in front of a mirror inside his small quarters, adjusting the ceremonial robes Lyra's people had gifted him. The fabric shimmered faintly, woven with threads that seemed to glow like starlight. It was unlike anything he'd ever worn, but it felt strangely fitting for the occasion. Outside, the settlers gathered in the open plaza at the heart of the colony. Rows of chairs had been set up, draped with colorful banners representing both human and Vaylani traditions. The air hummed with quiet chatter as people waited for the ceremony to begin. Some were skeptical, while others were curious or even hopeful about what this union might mean for their future. Lyra, too, prepared for the event aboard her family's ship. She wore an elegant gown made of flowing, translucent material that shimmered in shades of blue and silver. Her skin glowed brighter than usual, a sign of joy and pride among her people. As she looked out at the gathering crowd through a viewport, she felt a mix of excitement and responsibility. This wasn't just her wedding, it was a promise to unite two worlds. When the time came, the ceremony began under the twin suns of EO7. A gentle breeze carried the scent of wildflowers from the nearby forest, adding a touch of natural beauty to the scene. The Vaylani elders led the procession, their movements graceful and deliberate. They carried symbols of unity, a glowing orb representing harmony and a crystal shard symbolizing strength. Behind them walked Jiho, his steps steady despite the weight of the moment. Finally, Lyra appeared, stepping forward to join Jiho in the center of the plaza. The crowd fell silent as they watched the two figures stand side by side. Jiho glanced at Lyra, marveling at how radiant she looked. Her presence was calming, grounding him in the midst of the whirlwind. An elder from the Vaylani Council stepped forward to speak, addressing the assembly in a voice that resonated deeply. Today marks the joining of two paths, he said, his words translated into English for the settlers. Through this bond, we honor not only our shared past but also the possibilities of our shared future. Jiho listened intently, feeling the gravity of the moment settle over him. When it was his turn to speak, he took a deep breath and addressed the crowd. I never imagined my life would lead me here, he began, his voice steady despite the lump in his throat. But meeting Lyra changed everything. She taught me that differences don't have to divide us, they can bring us closer together. Today isn't just about me and her. It's about showing that peace and understanding are possible no matter how far apart we may seem. His words earned murmurs of approval from the crowd, even from those who had initially doubted the alliance. Lyra smiled warmly at him, her eyes glistening with emotion. Together, they exchanged vows in both human and Vaylani languages, sealing their bond with gestures unique to each culture. For the humans, they held hands and promised loyalty and trust. For the Vaylani, they touched foreheads, allowing their connection to flow silently between them. As the ceremony concluded, cheers erupted from the settlers, mingling with the soft hum of approval from the Vaylani. Music filled the air, human instruments blending seamlessly with the melodic tones produced by the Vaylani's glowing skin. It was a celebration unlike any other, marking the start of a new chapter for everyone involved. In the days that followed, Jiho found himself adjusting to his new role as a bridge between species. Life wasn't without its challenges. There were still moments of misunderstanding and tension, but every obstacle became an opportunity to learn and grow. Jiho worked tirelessly alongside Lyra, mediating disputes, fostering cooperation, and ensuring that both humans and Vaylani benefited from their partnership. The colony flourished under their guidance, With the Valanese advanced technology and the settlers' ingenuity, EO7 transformed into a thriving hub of innovation. Crops grew faster and healthier, energy sources became more sustainable, and medical advancements saved countless lives. Most importantly, the bond between the two groups strengthened, proving that trust could overcome even the widest divides. For Jiho, the journey had been transformative. What started as a lighthearted joke had evolved into something far greater, a testament to the power of connection and understanding. He often reflected on how fate had brought him and Lyra together, turning a fleeting encounter into a lifelong commitment. One evening, as they stood together watching the twin suns set over the horizon, Lyra turned to Jiho with a soft smile. "Do you remember what you said to me all those years ago?" she asked. Jiho chuckled, scratching the back of his head sheepishly. "Yeah, I didn't think anyone would take that seriously." "And yet," Lyra replied, her voice warm with amusement, "it changed everything." Jiho nodded, looking out at the vibrant landscape around them. "Fate has a funny way of working things out, doesn't it?" Lyra squeezed his hand gently. "Perhaps, or maybe it was simply meant to be." As they stood there, bathed in the golden light of the setting suns, Jiho realized that he couldn't imagine his life any other way. Together, he and Lyra had forged a path toward a brighter future not just for themselves, but for humanity and the Vailani alike. Their story was proof that even the most unlikely connections could lead to something extraordinary. And so, under the endless skies of EO7, a new era began, one defined not by fear or division, but by hope, unity, and the boundless potential of two worlds coming together.